Hey there, www.andrewmarkmusic.com, another informal chat late night in the van, and this one riffing off a Vedic text from the Ashtavakra Samhita. I think that's how you say it. Forgive me if I don't get these correct. Sort of besides the point, my pronunciation is. But here, I'm going to read to you one of the verses. You are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. It says space, but I'm going to use the word ether because I'm a troublemaker. Okay, so you are neither earth, nor water, nor fire, nor air, nor ether. In order to attain liberation, know the self as the witness of all these and as consciousness itself. Okay, so this is the verse I'm going to offer some thoughts on as a Sethian Christian Gnostic. And I'm not meaning to be offensive to anybody who is, orthodox within the Vedas. But I'm just going to riff on what it says. So the first thing I'm going to sort of lay out here is that we're talking about the Atman here. Now, to get across what I want to get across, I'm going to have to, just for the sake of this, I'm just going to have to say that the Atman is the spark of the pleroma of the Christian Gnostics. And it's also the Ka of the Egyptian schools. So, pure spirit. So, let's take it one by one here. What the Atman, what the spark of the pleroma is not. The spark of the pleroma is not the earth. The Atman is not water. The Atman is not fire. The Atman is not the air. And the Atman is not the ether. This isn't me saying this. This is God saying this. Okay? All I'm doing is repeating what God is saying here. So please, back off. But I think it's very clear, isn't it? To me, it's very clear what the Atman is not. Now, I might be missing something, but to me, it's just clear and obvious. It's just stating something that is very, very easy to grasp. So let's just grant this for the sake of the rest of this discussion. If this were true, what does that say about the Atman as far as popular culture goes today? Well, I would think there's a number of things that it has consequence for. These words have consequences for things that people are asserting about the Atman, about the spark of the pleroma, about the Ka. It's not of this universe. It's not of the material universe. Right? I mean, this is self-explanatory. It's not of the material universe. It's not material. It's pure consciousness. So let's start just adding in some assertions from modernity here within the spiritual community. Quantum entanglement. That's the material universe. So that ain't Atman. That's not the Atman. You go on about the Q word all day long. It's got nothing to do with the Atman, according to this. It's not the Atman. It's not the spark of the Pleroma. It's not the Ka. It's got nothing to do with it. Now, what it has to do with, one can speculate, I guess, but it's got nothing to do with pure consciousness, pure spirit. Kundalini, those little twin serpents going up your spine. According to this, 2 thumbs down, it ain't that. It's not. This makes it clear that Kundalini is BS if we're talking about the Ka, if we're talking about the Atman, if we're talking about the spark of the Pleroma, it ain't Kundalini, according to this. So somebody's making shit up. Who would ever do that on this planet? The Christ oil. There's people out there who try to make a distinction between Kundalini and the Christ oil. I won't name names, but how do you make that distinction? That's insane. But according to this, all the people that go, oh, yeah, the chrism oil, bullshit. It ain't the Atman. It ain't the spark of the Pleroma, and it ain't the Ka, according to this. According to these words, that's not what pure consciousness is. It's not of the material world. I guess the best you could say here is it somehow interacts with the material world through unknown processes. But I think at least with 2 out of the 3 of these examples, the latter 2, it doesn't really work because it should be detectable. And nothing within the Kundalini is detectable by science as far as the claims, and nothing about the chrism oil is detectable by science as far as the claims go. They can't be verified and they can't be falsified. So they're arbitrary claims about spirituality. But if we just take these words from this scripture, then those are just not true. They're not accurate statements. Now, my own view here, just as a possibility when it comes to some of those issues, is it's possible that it's dealing with what the Egyptians called the Ba, right? It's possible that these are referencing something other than pure consciousness. They might have something more to do with what I call the demiurgic mind. So within the Vedas, there's a distinction between mind and pure consciousness. So Atman, pure consciousness, is not the human mind. So it's not the human mind. That's not what Atman is. So if there is something going on with the claims of the Q word and Kundalini and the Christ oil, then in my view it has to be something to do with the Ba, which has to do with the mind. So the lower bidis in the Vedas, the manas. And at that point, all you're dealing with is the ego, more or less. You're dealing with ego constructs there. That's what those claims are referencing, according to this. And I'm trying to steelman the claims in a way that at least give them the possibility that there's something to them, but they're certainly not the Atman. So then what are they? What's going on here with these claims if there's something to them? Well, to the Scythian Christian Gnostic, you're dealing with the demiurge. You're dealing with the materiality. You're dealing, like in the Vedas, the mind is materiality. It's a part of Prakriti, but it's not the Atman. Atman is not the human mind. So, to the Sethian Christian Gnostics, the demiurgic construct is inherently deceptive. You find this idea in the Eastern traditions too. It's called by different names. It's called like samsara, maya, illusion, right? With granting that maybe they mean something a little bit different than what the Sethian Christian Gnostics are going to say about it. But in either case, there's something false about the material world and the mind, the lower intellect, the manas, the ego, the amakara, and they're a part of samsara. So that makes, if any of this is true, and I think some of it is, although it is hard to gauge how accurate I am here, but it makes most of the New Age claims just nonsense. That's all I want to say here. So I mean, I've covered what I want to say here, but there's a tangent to this that I've been thinking about, and if it's true that the spark of the pleroma is the Atman, is the Egyptian Ka, is pure spirit, then as the spark of the pleroma relates to the pleroma, it's not exactly the same thing. Like the Atman is not exactly the same thing as Brahman. The traditional metaphor is the ocean and the wave. But just to use an example to try and get the point across that I want to get, and the point has got to do with what's called Tri-Omniism, right? That the Brahman, the monad of the pleroma is Tri-Omni. So it's all knowing, all powerful, and everywhere. Let's just forget about the contradiction there as far as this scripture goes. I'm going to just put that contradiction aside and make my point. My point is, let's just imagine that your Atman is a gentle wave in the Pacific Ocean. In my opinion, there's no way an individual wave in the Pacific Ocean can know what an intense wave in a hurricane is doing in the Atlantic Ocean. It's not possible for that wave to know. Now, I'm going to be crude here and go, they are of the same substance, yes, but they're not of the same essence. Either wave, because they're individual waves, and they're not all-knowing. That wave in the Pacific Ocean does not know about the wave that's going on in a hurricane in the Atlantic. So these waves are individual. They're not all-knowing. And the proof of this should be so easy, right? One of the attributes given to Brahma is the ability to create life. there's no human Atman that can create life. That means there's a clear distinction between the Atman and the Brahman, and the Brahma, between the spark of the pleroma. Now, just grant that as a Satya Christian Gnostic, I believe that I have the hidden spark of the pleroma inside of me. It's not making me all powerful. It's not making me all knowing. It's not making me everywhere. I mean, this is hubris to say this. This is hubris to say that somebody who experiences the Atman is all-knowing, all-powerful. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. If we're taking this literally, if we want to talk about poetry and metaphors and things like that, fine. Believe what you want. I'm taking this stuff literally. If you take this literally, then the Atman does not have the same qualities as Brahman. They are the same essence. That's the best word I can think of here. But they don't have the same scope. There's a difference between God and humans. You might be able to tell that I'm more fond of Madhvacharya's Advaita than I am of Advaita Vedanta. I came across a blog recently called Shabda. I can't remember the name of the author, but I might remember it as I go on here. But one of his blogs was saying that, and I've felt this because I've studied a little bit of the history of India, and I feel really bad for what happened there from about the 8th century onwards. They just got hammered. They got hammered by Islam. Anybody knows that I'm no fan of Islam or Judaism or Orthodox Christianity, but they just got hammered there badly, and that transitioned into colonialism and British imperialism, which was a central banker move on the civilizational chessboard. And what he said there in this blog is that the reason Advaita got traction, and I'm truncating this, and I'm paraphrasing, is that it suited the agenda of the imperialists. In other words, it suited the agenda of the banking empires. One of the things that I reference is, what makes a spiritual claim truer than falser is, does it offend the central bankers? Advaita Vedanta does not offend the central bankers. Never has, never will. Anyway, this guy's saying, I'll link his blog in the description, but he's saying that a lot of what's happened with Indian spirituality in the last 200 years has to do with Western imperialism and how they wanted the tradition to be promoted. What was in their best interest to take the Vedas and promote it in a way that was not offensive to them, not offensive to their imperial agendas. It's an interesting blog. I'll link it. So anyway, yeah, those central bankers can't offend them. Not allowed to offend them. If you try to offend the central bankers, they're going to make thought crimes. Like, if you speak against them, you're a criminal. Like, you're not going to commit any acts of violence against them. You're just going to speak against them and their immorality, their unethical behavior, their corruption. And they want to put you in jail just for speaking against their corruption. I mean, at this point, we've entered into the, a Christian twilight zone. It's unbelievable. I mean, they get to commit crime after crime after crime through coercive violence in every nation in the world. Exploitation. If I was to say this as a Marxist, I'd be hailed as a hero. But as a Christian Zionistic, to say this makes me a criminal through thought crime. It's unbelievable. This one is called, I'm going to try it again, Ashtavakra Samhita. You are neither the earth, you are neither water, you're neither fire, you're neither air. Atman is not the ether. In order to know the self, as a witness of all these things, you must abide in pure consciousness. The spark of the pleroma. Now, look at, I get it, through the centuries, the Vedic schools have come up with all kinds of different takes on this. But they do call this place bondage. If you do not abide in this pure consciousness, then even according to the Vedas, you're in bondage. If you go back to the earliest schools, what's most interesting to me, like the Jains, like they knew what this place was. They were complete renunciates to the point of even renouncing clothing. They knew this place wasn't good. Now, a lot of the early schools were also non-theistic, which is really bizarre. Samkhya. I think Mimosa. Again, I'm no Vedic scholar, and I don't pretend to be. I'm a Sathian Christian Gnostic, and I have thoughts on these matters. But that so many of these schools of the early Vedic period were non-theistic is in a way really telling. What it tells me is that God was not obvious any more than God is obvious today. As far as what is generally known as open supernaturalism, like parting the Red Sea. Bullshit. But the point is, these early Vedic practitioners understood this. There's certainly a very good reason why materialism and atheism has more or less filled up the house, so to speak. But in my view, it's a mistaken ideology, but also understandable, given what I've just covered here. Anyway, late night in the van, some more thoughts. Got the first snow today. Just absolutely stunning to see the forest all in white. Sethian Christian Gnostics do not view the demiurgic construct as 100% inherently evil. It's not. It is what it is. When it comes to the spirit of the Atman, your existence here is bondage, no matter what beauty you see here. We Christian Sethian Gnostics aren't even renunciates to the point of the Jains. We would say walk the middle path and try to live the best spiritual life that's conducive with the spark of the pleroma here, which means you couldn't practice capitalism, central banking, economics. There's just it's impossible. You can't practice that and declare that you're of the spirit. If you practice that and you're spiritual, you're of the ba. You're of the mind. You're of the personality of the ego. It's fine, but that's what it is. Don't delude yourself that it's anything more than that. Okay, www.andrewmeyermusic.com. A little riffing on one of the Vedic verses. Apparently there's like 1 million verses in the Vedas. They talked a lot, didn't they? Ciao.